Stop scrolling, because what you're about to hear is not just another success story, it's a blueprint of obsession, risk, failure, resilience, and a mindset so extreme it redefined what is possible in our generation. Welcome to Titans of Success, the place where we study the greatest uncommon achievers the world has ever known, not just what they did, but how they thought. Because once you understand how they think, you begin to change how you live. So if you're serious about becoming more, thinking bigger, and stepping into a completely different level of your life, then subscribe now, because every video on this channel is designed to transform the way you see yourself and what you believe is possible. And today, you're about to witness the life of a man who refused limits, refused comfort, and refused to think small. Before the billions, before the rockets, before the global influence, Elon Musk was just a quiet child growing up in Pretoria, South Africa. But his childhood was not easy. It was painful, confusing, and at times isolating. He was bullied repeatedly, beaten, humiliated, pushed to the edge. There was even a moment where he was thrown down a flight of stairs and beaten so badly he had to be hospitalized. Most people would break in that environment. Most people would shrink. But something else happened. He escaped into books, not casually, obsessively. He would read for hours every day, sometimes up to 10 hours. Science fiction, physics, engineering, philosophy. While other kids were playing, he was building his mind. Because even then, he wasn't just living in the present, he was thinking about the future. By the age of 12, he taught himself programming and created a video game, which he sold, not because he needed money, but because he wanted to create. And that curiosity, that obsession with building, became the foundation of everything that followed. But life didn't suddenly become easier. He left South Africa chasing opportunity, moved to Canada, then to the United States, alone, uncertain, but focused. He wasn't chasing comfort, he was chasing possibility. At the University of Pennsylvania, he studied physics and economics, but even then, he wasn't thinking like everyone else. While others were planning careers, he was planning impact. He asked himself a powerful question: what are the biggest problems that will affect the future of humanity? And from that question, everything began. His first company, Zip2, a small startup, built from scratch, with long nights, no comfort, no stability. At one point, he was sleeping in the office, working endlessly, showering wherever he could. Because when you are obsessed with building something, comfort becomes irrelevant. And eventually, Zip2 was sold for nearly $300 million. Most people would stop there, but Elon Musk was just getting started. Because money was never the goal. Impact was. He reinvested everything into his next vision, X.com, which later became PayPal. Once again, long hours, high pressure, relentless focus, and once again, success. Sold to eBay for $1.5 billion. Now imagine this moment. You've made hundreds of millions. You have complete freedom. You never have to work again. Most people would retire. But Elon Musk did something different. He risked everything. He took nearly all his money and invested it into ideas that most people thought were impossible. Electric cars, private rockets, sustainable energy. People laughed, doubted, criticized, because the ideas were too big, too risky, too unrealistic. But he didn't care. Because vision doesn't ask for permission. And so he built Tesla, SpaceX, Solar City. But this is where the real story begins. Because everything almost collapsed. Tesla was struggling. SpaceX had failed multiple launches. Money was disappearing. Pressure was building. At one point, he was nearly broke. Think about that. From hundreds of millions to almost nothing. He had one choice: play it safe or risk everything. And he chose to risk everything. He split his remaining money between Tesla and SpaceX. If both failed, he would lose everything. That is not normal. That is obsession. That is belief at a different level. SpaceX failed again and again and again. 3 rocket launches, 3 failures. Each failure costing millions, each failure pushing him closer to the edge. Most people would quit, but he didn't, because he understood something powerful. Failure is not the end, unless you stop. Then came the 4th launch. Everything on the line, no second chances. And this time, it worked. That single success saved SpaceX. Soon after, NASA awarded them a contract, and everything changed. Tesla followed the same path. From near bankruptcy to global dominance. Electric cars, once doubted, became the future. And Elon Musk went from being on the edge of losing everything to becoming one of the most influential people in the world. But here's what most people don't understand. It wasn't luck. It was obsession. It was the willingness to work when others rest, to risk when others hesitate, to believe when others doubt. He worked insane hours, slept in factories, lived inside the companies he was building. Because when you are building something great, there is no balance. There is only focus. And that level of focus is what separates him, not intelligence alone, not opportunity, but execution. Relentless, consistent, focused execution. So when you look at Elon Musk today, you're not just looking at success. You are looking at what happens when vision meets discipline, when risk meets action, when failure meets persistence. And that is the real lesson. Because the difference between where you are now and where you want to be is not luck, it's decision. A decision to think bigger, to act differently, to stay consistent, even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable, even when no one believes in you. So now, ask yourself, are you willing to take risks? Are you willing to stay disciplined? Are you willing to keep going when everything tells you to stop? Because that is what separates titans from everyone else. If this video changed something in you, if it made you think differently, if it made you realize that you can become more, then this is where you belong. Subscribe to Titans of Success, where we don't just tell stories, we build minds, we create discipline, we shape uncommon achievers. Because one day, the story we tell here might be yours.